Welcome to this episode of Learning Fusion. In today's episode, we're going to be covering the Spline Editor within Fusion. So let's roll this intro and let's jump into it.
We're learning Fusion together. We'll learn 2D stuff and 3D stuff and particle stuff and compositing stuff, deep pixel stuff and tracking stuff, but not other stuff, but some other cool stuff, cause we're learning Fusion together.
Now, before we start going over the Spline Editor, I kind of want to clarify some things with animation and Fusion, because there's three major things that kind of make up the backbone of animation within Fusion. So if we go to our little white dot, and let's go ahead and make a keyframe. I'm going to go to the end and just change the location. Now, yesterday we went over the Keyframe Editor. And if you remember right, the Keyframe Editor, if we go to our little white dot, you can see we can see our keyframes that we created. That's that keyframe right there. This keyframe on the end is this keyframe right here. And if I open our Spline Editor and we look at our little displacement here, and let's go ahead and fit all this in so we can see. You can see our keyframe right here and our keyframe right here. And we've got a spline for editing. So these three things are what really make up our animation within Fusion. So if you remember, the primary purpose of our keyframe editor is to edit the location of our keyframes, as well as do things like change when things come in and out. So if we wanted our orange dot to come in later, we just move that, our blue dot, move that. So if we go back, you notice our orange and blue dot don't come in until we tell it to come in, as well as, like I said, changing time of our keyframe. And you notice as I change this time of the keyframe, you can see it changing in our Spline Editor down there. And then the primary purpose of our little Spline Editor down here is, one, we can change our keyframes like we can in our Keyframe Editor. Additionally, we can change the animation ease in and ease out of our stuff. So we can make it ease in and ease out. So we can modify all that. And let's get our little blue dot and orange dot back in there. And then, of course, this third piece of our animation, which is our path or our animation path, which we'll be covering in the next episode. So these three things kind of all go hand in hand and work together-ish. For example, if I say go to frame 40, and I go to my Spline Editor and I create a keyframe. If I go over to our Keyframe Editor, you can see we've got that keyframe, but we don't have that keyframe in our path. So that's not transcribing to our path editor. So when we're creating animations and doing things, we want to keep that in mind. So if we want to make sure all of our keyframes are prevalent everywhere, even though we see it right here in our little time ruler, we're really not seeing that keyframe in our path. So instead of adding it, say, on our Spline Editor, I can go ahead and just delete that. If I go back to frame 40, and up here in my inspector, I add a keyframe, and I move it. You notice we now have that keyframe on our path, and it's in our Spline Editor, and it's in our Keyframe Editor. So just keep that in mind when you're adding keyframes, because sometimes it doesn't add it on your path if you need it added on your path. And this only comes into play when we're talking about paths, because animating on paths is a little different than animating, say, the color or the blur or animating values of things. But I'll get into that here in a second. So these are the three main things. Just keep all that stuff in mind while you're working with this. So let's jump into this Spline Editor. And we're going to go ahead and delete this keyframe. And before I get into actually teaching the Spline Editor, I want to talk about this horizontal and vertical numbering system and how some of this stuff works with our splines. Because as I said, this is a path. And how our path values work are different than how, say, our values on other things work. For instance, if I go to our white dot, go to the beginning, and let's go ahead and add a keyframe for our soft edge. We'll go to the end, and I'll change up our soft edge a little bit. or enough for you to see. Actually, I'll put in an actual value of 0.05. You can see our splines are completely different, and that's because these work on values. So if I turn off our soft edge and I look at our values are going from 0 to 1 because a path works on 0 to 1. 0 meaning the beginning of our little time ruler and 1 being the end of our time ruler. And everything else in between is just relative numbers when it comes to our actual spline. So if we look at our number system here, it's going from 0 to 1 with arbitrary numbers in between. It's not necessarily giving us X, Y location like it is right up here. So for instance, if I take our little keyframe and I move it way over here, we're still sitting at 1. And even if I go to this keyframe and I change the actual Y value of it, we're still sitting at 1 because this is the last keyframe in our animation. So if I was to go here, move this, now this is our last keyframe, and then our new keyframe just dropped down, not to a specific number, but to a relative number. So just remember that's how our paths work, from 0 to 1. So if we were to add a keyframe, you're not going to be able to simply add a keyframe and put it in a specific location based off this path. Whereas our soft edge, if I bring our soft edge up and turn this displacement on, if I zoom in here, you can see our numbering is actual value number system. So if I'm here and I want to add a keyframe and I want a value of, say, 0.38, I put it at 0.38, and that's exactly where it is on our little spline. It's not a 0 to 1 relative value, it's an actual value. So anything like this that it just has numbering systems is going to be an actual value. The only thing that's going to be relative are our XY positions and our XY pivot locations. So just keep that in mind while you're animating as well. Now we can, if that's an issue for you, if I go to back to our little example here, and let's fit this, let's delete this keyframe, and let's put this back where we want it over here. I can change this from a relative path to an XY path. And how I do that is I can go up here and click on our little path. If I right click, go down to path 1 polyline and select convert to XY path, hit OK. As soon as I do, now I have an XY path for that path. So if I go here in the middle, I can change my Y position. I can even select that, make it a little curve. Now I can animate separately on my XY position. Now just keep in mind, if I go through here and I have to delete animations and get rid of everything, if I select everything, let me delete it, and I go back, I'm still going to have a keyframe here that I can't delete. I can't get rid of this unless I go back here, select my line, go to my little XY path, go back down here, convert to polypath, hit OK. Now it's back to that relative path, and I can go here and delete my keyframe. And I can delete my soft edge keyframe as well. So just keep that in mind when you're working with all this. And let's jump in and teach you about this Spline Editor. So as I showed you before, we can go ahead and create a keyframe, go to the end, and create a keyframe. And let's go ahead and fit that. Now, to be able to navigate around in here, I can use my mouse wheel to move up and down. I can hold my control, use my mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and it's going to zoom in and out where my mouse pointer is. I can hold my Alt key and move it left and right with the scroll wheel. Additionally, I can just hold my middle mouse and drag it around how I want. Right here, if I want to change my zoom on the vertical level, I can use this slider. I can use this slider to zoom on my horizontal. Additionally, if I go over here, I get these up and down arrows. If I click, I can drag up and down to zoom in and out. And on my horizontal, I'll get a left and right arrow. I can click, I can drag to zoom in and out horizontally. And then of course, this is our fit button. If we need to zoom in, we can click this, click and drag, and it'll zoom into that location. And as far as other options right here, we can show only selected, and let's go ahead and get another one in here with some animation on it. Let's just click that. If I select show only selected tool, whatever I'm selected on is going to show up. And just as a reminder, the only thing that's going to show up is anything with animation. So unlike our Keyframe Editor, where everything shows up and we used all these filters to filter everything out, within our Spline Editor, it's only going to show up if there's actually animation on it. But I can uncheck that. I can show all, I can show none. Additionally, I can use my filters that we used in our Keyframe Editor. So I can go to Create Filter, and if I wanted to make a new one, I could select New. Let's name it to Example. And I want to use my Example filter. And under here, I can change whatever I want. So if I don't want my media in, media out, saver, or my loader nodes to show up, I can uncheck those. I can save it. So now if I go here, I'll have that example. So those will never show up here, whether they have animation on it or not. I can collapse all controls, which is going to collapse all the additional controls. I can expand all the controls. Additionally, I can expose all controls, which are going to show us all of our extra little setting animations here. Anything that is animatable. I can uncheck that. I can also select all tools, so it's going to check everything. I can deselect all tools, or I can select one tool, which means whatever one I want to work on is what's going to show up. So if I select our little soft edge here, and I don't know why our media out is showing. It's odd, but like the Keyframe Editor, this does get a little glitchy sometimes, just so you know. Show none, show all. There we go. Our media is gone. But like I said, we could select one. So if I select this, only our little white dot displacement is showing up. If I select this, only our soft edge on our orange dot is showing up. And on this set selection, if we saved any selections, we can select that and it's going to show up. So as far as these check marks, what this means is if it's checked with a white check, that means I can see it and I can modify it. So if I need to add a keyframe, I can. If I have it just checked with these little white dots, that means I can see it, but I can't modify it. And if I unselect it, that just means I can't see it at all. And over here, we can change the color of our little lines. So if I have a white dot and I want that to be white, so I know it's my white, I can right click, change color, select white. For my orange over here, I can right click, change color, and select orange. So now my lines are color coordinated to my little dots. So let's fix our spline here real quick. So I'm going to go to the end and I'm actually going to move my little dot so it is somewhere. So let's talk about these locked keyframes here. Now we talked about this spline being a relative going from 0 to 1 and not having actual values. So anytime we add a keyframe, so if I went to say frame 70 up here and I added a keyframe just by clicking up here, it's going to create this locked keyframe. And what that means is I can't edit the value of it. I can change its place in time. So as I change, you can see it's changing, but it's not changing up here on our path, but it is changing the actual location of that keyframe. But I can't change the value. If I needed to change the value, I could select that And if I go up here and click on the actual keyframe on the path, if I right click, go to polyline and unselect this lock points, now it's unlocked. So now I can actually change the value of that. And if I needed to relock it, I can, but just know it's going to do some weird things. So I could select this, and if I right click, go to polyline, and if I select to lock this point again, it's going to lock the point, but not necessarily on my new location I created. It's going to lock it on its original location. So if I select polyline, lock points, notice it locked at our original location back here. But that's how you lock and unlock your points if you need to. So let's go ahead and delete these, and let's go back and let's go to our orange dot, and let's create another animation here on our soft edge. So we've got our new spline for our soft edge. If we go to the end, we can change that up so it blurs up a little bit, and we've got a new keyframe right there. Now, if I wanted to move this keyframe, I can click and drag keyframes wherever I want. Additionally, I can add keyframes if I want. So I can just add additional keyframes wherever. So now we've got that animated in and out. And if I want to delete keyframes, I can just click and drag whatever I want to delete, hit the delete key, and they're gone. Now, as far as our actual splines, by default, when we create a new spline, it's creating a Bezier spline. So if I select this, you can see we've got our little handles here. So we can change our ease in and ease out of our spline. And if you're not seeing these handles, if you right click, go to show, your handles might be unchecked, so they're hidden. So just right click, show handles, and now you'll be able to see them. So, and to be able to adjust your handles, you just have to click, drag, and move them around. So independently, I can move them around. So now if I play my animation, you can see it's going to ease out and then ease in. And if ever my handles get all crazy and wonky and I want to reset them, I can always just grab them. And if I click this little smooth, it's just going to flatten those ease ins and ease outs. Additionally, up here, we have our ease in and ease out. And if you're not seeing that, if you are in your Spline Editor and you hit T, it'll show or hide your ease in and ease out values. And if I just select this one, I can adjust my ease out because we're easing out. So as you're coming out of a keyframe, that's your ease out. So I can change this value. I can select this one, and that's ease in. So when you're coming into a keyframe, you're easing in. So I can change this value. Additionally, I can just type in 10, and I can select this one, and I've already got it at 10. Additionally, if I want to change them both at the same time, I can select both of them. I can just change my ease in and my ease out. If I had multiple keyframes, so if I added one, I could change this ease in and ease out as well. If I wanted that to be flat, it's flat, or I can change it. Change this ease out to be 10. My ease in to be 10. So now it's going to ease out, ease in, ease out, and then ease in. And you can do that for every single keyframe independently. Now, like I said, by default, it's creating these Bezier curves on our little splines. And there's a few ways to automatically do that, and a few ways to automatically add animation. So here we added animation by creating keyframes, and it created our splines. We can, however, if we go to, say, our orange dot here, if I go up to our soft edge here and I right click, I can also select animate. And if I select this animate, it's going to create a curve based off whatever default settings I had set in my Fusion setting. Meaning, if I go to Fusion settings, and under our splines, these are our default settings here. So however I have this set up, this is how it's going to create my default animate spline, which happens to be Bezier spline. So I can select animate, and it's automatically going to create a spline so I can animate that spline. So if I change it, you can see I have a Bezier spline. Additionally, if I go here, we have this Bezier spline, which is going to create the same exact spline, but this will be available on every single menu. So I can hit Bezier spline. If I look, we have a Bezier spline. Additionally, if I select Modify With, I have 3 options of splines, which is the B-spline, the cubic spline, and the natural cubic spline. So if I select B-spline, it's going to create a keyframe on the first keyframe. And let's go ahead and hide our little white dot here. And let's change this to orange so we can see the differences of these splines. And I'm going to go to the end. I'm going to add another keyframe, and then I'm going to go to, say, frame 40. And on my soft edge, I'm going to type, I don't know. Let's just make that 0.2. And it's not changing. And this is kind of an issue with creating these keyframes within here. And so if I select this keyframe right here, if I look down here, here's my actual value. So I tried to change this up here to 0.2, and it's not changing. So no matter what I do, it's not typing in there. It's just kind of maxing out up there. So what I have to do is select it. If I go down here, select my value, I can put in 0.2. Now it's sitting at 0.2. And actually 0.3 was a little closer to where I wanted it, so 0.3. But if you notice, it's not changing our value up here, but our actual value is 0.3. We look 0.3, 0.3. And I'll cover these here in a second. So let's go to our blue dot, and let's go to the beginning. But this time we're going to select Modify With Cubic Spline. And I'm going to go to the end, keyframe, go to frame 40. And we'll say 0.3. And if you notice, it just put a cubic spline in there. And right now there's no curves to it whatsoever. It's just a cubic spline, but I can select it all. And if I hit this smooth, it's going to smooth out my curve. And then we can go to our purple dot. Actually, let's make our blue dot blue. So change color, blue. So we know that's our blue spline right there. And let's go to our purple, go to the beginning. And this time we're going to right click, Modify With, we're going to select Natural Cubic Spline. So it created a natural cubic spline. I'm going to go to the end, add a keyframe. We're going to go to 40. And here we're going to type in 0.3. So now we've got that little natural cubic spline going. And again, it doesn't have any curves yet. We have to select it all and smooth it out. And let's go ahead and make our purple so we can see the difference between them. So the orange, we've got our Bezier curve going. On our blue, we've got the cubic curve, and then the purple is our natural cubic curve. So you can see how these curves are different depending on what type you select. So if I push play, you can see how they're blurring in and out based on the curve. Slowly on the curve. So the type of curve you select does make a difference. So let's go ahead and reset all this. Get rid of our blue dot. Get rid of our orange dot. And let's turn our white dot back on. So let's talk about our bottom toolbar here. So I already covered this one right here. This will smooth out your curve. This one right here will kind of linearize your curve, but it's not a true linear curve because we still have these Bezier curves here. But it will straighten your curve out. This invert right here, I don't know why it's here because it's not used in this. This is just for non-animatable LUTs when you're doing LUT curves. So this serves no purpose in our little spline editor. Right here, we can step in and step out. And what this means is, let me go ahead and add a few more keyframes here. So there we go. If I select all of our keyframes here and I select step in, it's going to step in to our keyframes. So if I push play, it's just going to step into them linearly. And if I select step out, it's going to step out of them. Like so. Or I can curve it back up. Additionally, right here, I can reverse it. So if I select reverse, it's going to reverse our entire curve from our in to our out. So now it's going to be reversed. And right here, I can loop. So let's go ahead and delete all these. Let's delete all these. And let's set up our loop. So let's say this was our loop from 0 to 15. If I selected this and click on this loop button, it's just going to loop it in that time frame. So if I push play, it's just going to keep looping. And I can adjust this time right here. And if I unselect that first one, I can adjust this time to make it faster or make it slower. Additionally, if I select all these, I can select this ping pong. So it's going to ping pong our animation back and forth. And again, I can select this keyframe and I can move it so it's faster or slower. For this is going to allow us to set our relative location. And what that means is it's going to incrementally keep going on with our animation. So if I zoom this down and I select these and select this set relative, if I really zoom in, you can see our curve is continually relative according to that curve. So if I push play, it's just going to keep going, and I should probably change this animation right here so it's not going out so far. So if I change this on our X and I push play, you can see it's incrementally, relatively changing over time. And I can adjust this one to make it slower or faster. Now, addition to these buttons right here, we have other ways to set loops and change how our loops work, whether it's coming in or going out. So if I say select this, let me back up, and I right click, I can select set loop, which is just loop. It's going to be the same. Or set relative, it's going to be the same as our relative button here. Or select ping pong, and it's going to be the same as our ping pong. But if I go here and set PreLoop, that means it's going to set our loop before our actual keyframes come in. So for example, if I set loop, you can see if I go over here, it's setting our loop before it comes in. So if our animation didn't start until over here, it's automatically going to set our PreLoop. Or I can say set PreLoop relative, so it's going to be relative. Or I can say set PreLoop ping pong, so it's going to ping pong in. And that is basically anything that occurs before your first keyframe. And to turn it off, you just uncheck it. And to turn this one off, I just uncheck it. Now right here, we can just select all, which will select all of our little keyframes. If I select this, this is going to allow me to append just by clicking. So right now, if I want to add a keyframe, I actually can't click outside. I actually have to click on the line to add a keyframe. But if I select this, anywhere I click is going to add a keyframe. And just unselect it to turn it off. And this will allow me to stretch my keyframes. So if I, let me go ahead and select all these keyframes right here. And if I select this, it's going to select all the keyframes I selected. So from here to here, now I can just drag this line and scooch my keyframes out, and it's going to change them relatively. So now they're all stretched out. And if I uncheck it and just want to change these two keyframes, I can select that and just change those two keyframes. Now this box right here will allow me to shape my keyframes based on the size of the box. So if I first select my keyframes and then select this box, it's going to create a box around there. And this will allow me to change my keyframes up and down, left and right. Or I can just drag it and skew it if I want. So I can change it however I want. And then this button right here, all this is going to do is it's going to show your keyframes up top. And you used to be able to drag these to just drag your keyframe over, but for some reason I can never do it anymore. But that's what this is. So it's just showing you those markers up top. And speaking of markers, just like in our keyframe editor, we can right click up here and we can add a marker. And we can move our marker if we need to. Additionally, we can right click, we can show our marker list, and we can rename it. This is a marker. If we need to add one here, we can add one, say frame 40, new marker. And right here, we can check whether it's going to show up in our Spline Editor or our Keyframe Editor. If I hit close, now we've got our new little markers there. And if I right click, I can delete my marker. I got to move for it to delete. I can hide them. And again, just like in the Keyframe Editor, if I go to our edit page, our markers are available there. Additionally, if I create a marker here, I can add a marker and I can change the color in this one. So I can add a little pink marker. If I go back to Fusion, I've got that marker in our Keyframe Editor. And I can still show marker list. I can rename it and do whatever I want. Now down here, we have the same options that we did in the Keyframe Editor, except for we have two separate things for them. I can use this to edit any of my keyframes. So if I select this keyframe, you notice it's showing my time. So if I want to change the time to be at frame 30, I could change to frame 30. Now my keyframe's at frame 30. And if there is a value right here, I can change my value as well. So right now it's at 0.3, but remember this is a relative spline here. So change it to 0.4. We'll raise it up. But if we had something with actual values, which We can go ahead and create one. So we've got that. Let's go to the end, and we're going to create another keyframe. Let's go ahead and hide our white one here. Let's fit, and we're going to create a new keyframe right here for our softness. So if we go to our softness, you can see we've got our softness. And if I select it, I can change my time to say frame 60. And I can change my value to 0.05. And let's go ahead and delete these markers so it's not confusing anyone. But I just changed that down here based off time and off value. Additionally, I can change this off time offset. So if I'm at 60 and I want to offset it by 2, it just changed that to 62. And if I needed to move it back, I could just retype -2, and it's going to move it back -2. Now here for our T scale, this is our time scale, and this is based off where our playhead is located. So for example, if I move our playhead back to frame 0, and I change our little frame from 60, change it to T scale, but select 0.5, so half the time, it just moved it back to 30. But let me undo that. But if I take our playhead and I have it on frame 30, go to T scale and change it to 0.5, it just moved it back to 45, so only -15 based off of going from 30 to 60. So that's how that works. That time scale is a percentage of where your playhead is at. So if my playhead is on the opposite side, on frame 60, and I do T scale of 0.5, it's going to go in that direction, 0.5. Additionally, I can change how my value is operated. So if I select this, I have my value of 0.05, and that's my actual value. I can change it to 1 if I want, which is crazy. 0.05. I can change it to an offset. So if I want to offset it by 0.1, it's going to change it by 0.1. Or I can select -0.1, and it's going to go back. Additionally, I can go by scale. So if I go by scale of 0.5, it's going to change it half of that. Or I can do 1.5, and it's going to increase it 1.5. So a percentage of our value. So that's how these work. Now there's a few additional settings on our right-click options that aren't here, which we can use quite often. So let's go ahead and turn this one back on. And I'm going to go ahead and delete all these keyframes. And I'm going to change this. So if I select this, right-click and select duplicate, I can select loop, relative, or ping pong. So if I select loop, I can select how many times I want it to loop. So if I only want it to loop 3 times, I can select 3, and it's only going to loop 3 times. So now if I push play, 1, 2, 3, and then it's done. Or I can select it, select duplicate, select relative, say I want that 5 times. It's going to duplicate it 5 times relatively, if you can see that. So if I push play, it's duplicating it. Or I can right click, select duplicate, ping pong. If I want it to ping pong 8 times, it's going to ping pong 8 times. Then we also have gradient extrapolation right here. So if I select this and I select gradient extrapolation, now I can select this and it's going to extrapolate my last keyframe depending on how I change that. So if I crank that up, I just hit play, It's going to continue up that gradient until it runs out of time, apparently. If I move this, we can see it work a little better. So that's using gradient extrapolation. It's just going to continue on up with that little spline curve. So let's get a clean animation here. So let's select our little blue dot. We're going to go to the end and create an animation there. Let's fit it, and we're going to go over our little right-click options here. Now, these are going to change depending on what you click on. So if I say click on this blue dot, you can see it's coming up with our normal little right-click options here. Same with our path, our normal little right-click options. But if I right-click on this displacement, it's going to come up with a lot more options. And these options and the options in this from right-clicking just over here are almost the same. So we can cut, copy, paste settings, and delete if we want. We're already editing our splines, our edit controls are our control edits over here that we don't want to play with, as well as rename, cache to disk, and our modes are all the same. Our setting, our render range, and our settings are all the same, as well as adding and editing scripts. Now we can copy our values and points and all that stuff, but it gets a little finicky when we're talking about our displacement paths. But if we go to our little orange dot here and let's hide everything else. And we've got our little values of our orange dot here. We can select them all. If I right click, I can select copy points. And if I go to my little purple here, create a keyframe, go to my soft edge, right click, paste points and values. Now we've got the same values working on the purple. So just mind you, that doesn't work very well when we're talking about stuff on paths. Because of those locked keyframes, this cut, copy, paste values doesn't work very well. But we'll get into that in the next episode when we talk about paths and how we can cut, copy, paste paths. Now, additionally, we can paste with offset. We can delete them. We can reduce our points, meaning if I have a whole bunch of points in here with a bunch of different values, and I don't know what I'm clicking because I have too many up. There we go. We got a bunch of points. If I select these, right click, and I select reduce points, it's going to come up with a pop-up of how many we want to reduce it by. And we can change it, and it's going to reduce our points. Additionally, we can flatten it if we want. We can also smooth them out. You can right click. Now, mind you, make sure you're selected, because if you're not selected on anything, you right click, they're going to be grayed out. But if we select certain points, right click, then we're going to be able to smooth. So we can change this to actual linear. So if we select them all, change it to linear, we just change them to little linear points. We can smooth out our points by default. We can also use our little dialog here, which is going to use this crazy equation to smooth stuff out. But this equation is made for like waveforms, so it's extremely confusing. I've never used it, but if you know how to use the Savitzky-Gali smoothing filter, that crazy trigonometry that's going on, you can go ahead and use that. You can also select your step in, step out. We can reverse it. Now our ease in things are pretty handy right here. So we can ease in on different ways, linear and quadric and cubic, out cubic, in out cubic, out in cubic, out back cubic, back in cubic, and dialog. And this will all change how you do your in and out for your selected points. So if we choose this by dialog, we can go in here and we can select which one we want to do. And it's going to show it to us, and we can edit it if we want. So we can edit our curve and hit OK, and it's going to do everything on those or whatever point we're selected on. So now if I hit play, it's going to be easing in and out according to that. So if you want to get in depth with your ease in and out, that's what you want to use. Your isolate is always going to be checked. So even if you uncheck that, that's not going to unisolate anything. If you go back in, you see your isolate is always going to be checked. This is our duplicate to duplicate our loop, our set loop, our set preloop, and our gradient extrapolation that we already covered. We can export our samples, our key points, or all points. If I select these, I can right click, go to export, all points, and it's going to come up with a little point export. So if I wanted to save it, I could save all these points. And if I wanted to add them to another one, I could right click and I could import spline. If I import spline, that spline that I exported, I can select and import it. I can rename it, and this is where we changed our color. So we can change our purple to purple, and now our line is purple. Right here, we can select all our previous or next points. We can lock our point selection. So if I lock our point selection, that means everything I had selected is going to lock those points. So no matter what I do, it's going to change everything. If I uncheck it, now it's unchecked. So if I wanted to say lock these 2 points together, I could select those, go here and select lock point selection. So anytime I select these two, they're always going to be locked. And then I can uncheck it. I can select save current selection, and this is what this over here comes in play. So if I select save current selection, I can name it to my selection. And if I go over here, set selection, now I have my selection, which means if I change all this stuff, I can go over here, just go here to my selection, and it's going to go back to its original. It should have gone back to its original location. And now it's glitchy. And at this point, you have to save, shut down, and restart. So let me save. And there we go. Now it's working again. So yeah, it does get glitchy sometimes. So just watch what you're doing. And down here, we can set our selection. We can delete it. We can rename it. And right here for set simple expressions, we will cover this in an episode on its own when we're talking about expression. Now, if we right click over here, we're going to have a few different options. So up top, we can change our scale. So we can scale to fit or zoom in. So under our options right here, when we fit with this button right here, we can select whether we're fitting to our time, which is up here, or fitting to our value, which is down here, or both. So if we only want to fit to our time, we can uncheck fit values. So when we hit this fit button, it'll only fit to our time and not worry about our values. Additionally, we can select this follow active. So if we're zoomed way in, we go to the back, it's going to follow our active timeline ruler. Right here, if we select independent handles, we can have independent handles, which means if I select this, I have independent handles. But if I unselect it, now our handle will be connected and they won't be independent. So whether I move this one or move this one, they're both going to move. Additionally, we can auto snap our points to none, to our frame and our field. And remember, our field is by points. So like 0.5 and then frame 1, frame 1.5, frame 2. And we can select markers if we have markers there. In our auto snap markers, when we do have markers, we can snap to none, to the frame, or to the field, and we can enable marker grab. Under our modes, we can select click append, which was the same as this little button right down here. So wherever we select, it's going to create new points. If we uncheck that, we can't. That's our click to append. And that is that mode right there. And to protect ourselves, we can select insert and modify only. That way we can make sure we don't accidentally add or do different things. So we can change these to kind of protect ourselves from adding or inserting things we don't want. We can select time stretching, which is the same as selecting our time stretching down here. And we can select shape box, which is the same as selecting our shape box down here. And again, we can copy our values, we can cut, copy, paste points, do all that fun stuff. We can set a key. So if I'm here, I right click, set key, it's going to create a key. Now if I right click and select this set key equal to, you got the option to your previous or next, meaning a key equal to your previous keyframe or the next keyframe. So if I select previous, it's going to create one equal to the previous one. And if I select equal to next, it's going to be equal to my next keyframe. And again, we can reduce points. This is our ease in and out, which is the same as hitting our little T button down there. We can also select flat to flatten it out. Smooth, linear, smooth points, our step in, step out, our reverse, our ease options again, our isolate, and our change point weight right here. And this doesn't come in play, so if I select it, you're going to see no selected points. But if I go to, go to our purple, let's select our purple here, and let's delete everything off of our purple so we can recreate this spline. And let's go up to soft edge and modify with B-spline. So now we've got a little B-spline there. And let's go to the end and create a keyframe. Let's go to the middle. And now we've got our B-spline with our little weighted point there. So now if I right click and I change point weight, you can see we have a point weight ruler right here, which is going to change the weight of this point. So I can slide it in and out to change that point weight. Additionally, I can just hold my W key if I want. So if I click on that and hold W, I can slide back and forth to change that point weight. So point weight only matters when we're using our B-spline. And again, we have our duplicate, our set loop, set preloop, our gradient, our export and our import, our select points. We want to select them all. We can lock our point selection, and we also have this show, and this is where we change what we're seeing. So we can show our tips, we can show our key points, so I can hide or show our key points. I could show or hide our handles, and that doesn't matter on your B-spline. But if we look at our orange one here, we see all this crazy stuff going on. We can show or hide our handles, so all of our little handles there. We could show or hide them. We could show or hide our key markers, which are our markers up top, which is the same as selecting this. We can show or hide any non-spline modifiers that we have. And down here again, it's just for saving our current selections, deleting them, and renaming them. So that is the Spline Editor. Fairly quick. In the next episode, we're going to be covering these paths in our path editor, and then we're going to put it all together when we talk about one episode of just animation in general. So we get in, we're adding nodes, and we're creating animations, and we'll use basically our keyframe editor, our spline editor, and our paths to show you how animation within Fusion is done. So I will see you in the next episode.